Do I know whether aliens are real? No. But do I believe that they're not real? Also, no. Hello, everyone. How are you doing? So, in this video, I really wanted to talk about Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. One of my goals for this channel is to meet more people to talk about books with and freak out about books with because I don't really have anyone in my real life to do that with. And I really want to talk about this book because I've heard many good things about it. I've already read the first chapter and it looks really technical and like everything is just going over my head, but also really good. One of the things I really wanted to do in this channel is have a read along where everyone can just read at their own pace and just talk about chapters at their own pace at the same time. So, something I really want to do is just go through this book with you chapter by chapter, and I'll have timestamps below. And you can hear my thoughts on each chapter, and hopefully, I can read about yours in the comments, and we can just go through this book together. And something that I really like to do when I'm reading books is try to predict the ending. So that's my main goal when reading this book. I am going to be trying to predict the ending by overanalyzing every single chapter, most likely, and you will either see me epically fail or actually get the ending at the end of it. I don't believe reading is about reading as many books as you can in the shortest amount of time, so this video probably will not have every single chapter in it, and that will be in the next video or whatever. But I just want to be able to discuss as many chapters as I can with you because I have a full time job outside of this and a life, and I'm just happy to be back into reading. I was in a book slump for about a year, and I'm really glad that I'm even reading like 5 pages of a book a day. Like, I'll take it. Like, I'm really happy. So, hopefully, you can find this book at your local library or on Libby or something, and we can all read it together. So, yeah, let's get started. Hi. So this might be a very chaotic recap because I read the first chapter a few months ago and I stopped reading the book after that because I wanted to make this video and to have people follow along. So here is what I remember from the first chapter, and none of it may be accurate, but let's go. So there's I don't even have my thing on. So there is, oh, it's so big. So there is a man. This is the man. He wakes up in a kind of facility where he is strapped to a bunch of tubes, and some of them are not like the most comfortable places that they're attached to. And basically, he wakes up, and there are also two other dead people on like a table next to him, and they're all like wizened and like wrinkly and just dead, but he's not dead. And he figures that he has gotten like food from like one of the tubes that was like attached to him. So like it was just kind of like food. Yeah, that works. And basically he's like, what am I doing here? I don't even remember my name. And after that, he's like, I need to figure out my name. And this like little robot arm thingy, I'm just like thinking of like I'm just gonna give it a hand because it is like a robot hand. It keeps on like trying to get him back into this bed that he fell off of, and he's like, "No, thank you." And he ends up having like a flashback after like removing all of the tubes attached to him and like seeing like a little bit of blood, and that like triggers a flashback in him. And he thinks that he might be a scientist because he actually knows the names of like all of the equipment around him, and like he figures that like he had previously talked to like more sciencey related people in the back. But anyway, basically there's like no way to exit this like room that he's in because there is a computer like controlled door that's like, what's your name? And he's just like, I don't know, man. Like, he does not remember his name, doesn't know what's going on. And I think there's like a ladder that like goes to some kind of hatch up above. That's the hatch. And he climbs it, except he realizes that he's like super weak, even though he seems to like have like muscles and stuff. So I'm imagining this man with like a six pack, but like can't climb up a ladder. And once he climbs up there, that's actually where he sees all the medical equipment and like the lab equipment. He's like, oh, I know all the names for all these. And he's like, but why is it so hard to climb up the ladder? So from that, he surmises that the amount of gravity in like the area he's in has to be like more than the gravity that's normal to Earth, because otherwise he would be able to climb up the ladder easily. So what he does then is like he times like how long it takes for some like tape measure. That's the tape measure uh, to drop to the ground, and just like times it. And he realizes that it's like faster, which means that like gravity is higher. The force of gravity is higher, and force equals mass times acceleration. It's the one thing I learned in high school. And from that, he's like, okay, so what kind of situations would I be where like gravity is higher? And he's like, okay, so there are two situations. One, I am not on Earth. This is Earth. He might not be on there. Or he's in a centrifuge, which is rapidly just spinning around, like so. And that would like alter gravity, I believe, which would make it harder for him to climb up the ladder and whatnot. So he puts this tape measure on like a kind of pendulum, and he swings it back and forth. And I think the logic that he mentioned, I don't know how I remember all this, is that a pendulum, no matter where it starts swinging from, if it's like a larger distance or a shorter distance, the time it takes for it to like swing back and forth should stay the same. So like the time it takes to swing this distance is equal to the time it takes to swing this distance. It's just that this distance will be faster to make up for like uh the distance, and this will be slower. So, but the only time that this changes is if like gravity is altered. So he does this with the tape measure, and he goes to like different heights on like the ladder, I believe, or just like puts it in like the air somewhere, and then like measures how long it takes to swing back and forth within like 10 minutes. And he realizes that like the amount of times it swings back and forth is equal. So that just removes the theory that he's in a centrifuge, which means that he's not on Earth. And that is what I remember from the first chapter. He basically did like a ton of science and math to do this, and I am really excited for this. I have my we also learned that there might be something up with the sun, like the we like he like reads some report or whatever that like the sun, yeah, that's a really bad sun. Okay, that's a sun, and it's like dying, so it's sad.
Yeah, I never claimed to be an artist.
We're not sure yet. And like this lady that he talked to in the past is like, yeah, we only have like an X amount of like time. It's very like limited. And he's like, oh no, that's not good. So and that's all we know. So the sun is dying. I think he's definitely in space. So yeah, I think he's gonna like save the sun. Okay, this is going to be a really chaotic review of the second chapter because I'm at not my house right now and there's music playing outside, and hopefully this works. How do I so I hope you guys really enjoyed the second chapter because I think it put more it gave more clarity into what exactly is going on with the sun. So I kind of included some of the second chapter into this whole mess. And I did not know that because apparently I read like 3 pages into the second chapter and thought this was all part of the first chapter. It's not. But in the second chapter, we learn that our main guy, we still don't know his name, he's actually a teacher. So he teaches, and like this is just going to be him in front of a blackboard. But you also find out that the sun is dying, and it's sad. But they have a couple years to fix it, I think. But like still, like having like 12 years until an ice age is awful. So this one mysterious woman who works for the FBI, wow, her face is really small. She comes up to him in like a suit and she's like, "Hey, you have to work for us." And he basically gets plucked out of his home and taken to some lab by the FBI where he has to work to ideally save the sun. We also find out that the two people in the lab with him were his crewmates and they were like really close friends, and he gets really sad about them being dead because apparently they were supposed to be in a medically induced coma, and your life isn't like guaranteed, like comas aren't guaranteed to work out all the time, and you might not wake up. And those two unfortunately didn't make it, but he did, so he's like depressed now. And he was actually kicked out of grad school. I think he suggested that life does not just need water to survive. It can survive with other things. I am not involved in the sciences whatsoever, so I don't know what exactly else you could use to make life if not water. But apparently, you need to have something that can react with other substances to create more of that original something. A catalyst. That was like the exact word they used, I believe. But yeah, now he's going to work with the FBI and this woman to save the sun. Oh, also, some probe was sent up to the sun, or to Venus particularly, because that's where the Petrova line is, which is like the main issue. They energy of the sun is going into like the Petrona line near Venus. We're just going to pretend the circle is Venus. So the sun's energy is going there instead of like to Earth. And they do some kind of like scan or whatever, this probe does, and it finds these like particles all just like moving like either closer together and then farther apart. Um, and they're shifting like this, and they think it might be signs of alien life that doesn't require water to exist, because water cannot survive um, in that area at the temperature, because I think water needs to be below 3000 Celsius. Wow, I don't know why that number stuck in my head, but the sun is like at 5500 degrees Celsius. But yeah, that's where we're at. And he still does not know his name, and he is still stuck in that spaceship. He now knows it's a spaceship. And yeah, he doesn't know what to do. Cool.
Also, I forgot to mention my predictions because I'm trying to predict the ending to this book. So I think that those dot things are definitely going to be alien creatures. At the very least, like not like aliens, like the green dudes that are like sentient and everything. But I think at the very least, aliens that are sentient but that don't require water to be created. So maybe just like microbes or whatever. I'm not entirely sure, but I still need more evidence to see how exactly he's going to fix this and manage to get energy from the sun to be redirected back towards Earth. Other than that, I'm really enjoying this book. I love sci-fi and I hope that you're enjoying it too. Okay, bye. Also, I'm dumb. We do figure out his name. It's like Dr. Grace or something. I don't know. I will put it in the analyzation for the next chapter, or I'll just like attach it in like a little text box in this video. Yeah. Okay, moving on to chapter 3. So we find out a couple of things that happen in this chapter. One, so our main dude is a science teacher. So this is it's a little beaker, and yeah, he's a science teacher. And that's why he knows all this stuff about science and physics. And he actually was in a grad program, but he was kicked off of it because he suggested that life is possible without needing water to be there. But anyway, the FBI recruits him, right? Or this one organization recruits him that is like working with like NASA. And he is basically put in this room where he has to work with like all of the little black dots and then conduct experiments on them. Uh, and he does like all these experiments to just get to know them more. And he finds out that all these black dots, they absorb energy. So they absorb like UV rays, and that's probably why they're also absorbing like the sun's rays and everything and energy from the sun. And all these black dots were taken from Venus, of course. So what he then does is he finds out that these black dots actually use light to move. So light, if you like turn on a flashlight, that was the example they gave, it technically actually just gives like a burst of energy this way and like propulses it like that way. But it's very like small and not that significant when like actually moving the flashlight. But these dots actually can emit light and it causes them to move. So they would like emit the light this way and they would move this way. And there are a ton of these dots. So that's why they're all absorbing the energy of the sun, which is endangering Earth. So he again makes his way to the front of the spaceship that he's in, and he sees this like panel that has like an image of the sun, and the sun has like sunspots or whatever. And he also finds like data that's like telling the acceleration and the like velocity of the spaceship that he's in, and he realizes that he's probably uh, the velocity is like decreasing in relation to the distance to the sun. So he's not sure whether he's going like towards it or away from it. But this picture monitor is like rotating, so he measures like the distance it takes for like one sunspot to like travel around this monitor, and he realizes that it's actually traveling faster than it should be, which means that he realizes by the end of the chapter that he is not in his solar system and he is actually in a solar system different than his, because this is not our sun. So that's where we're at right now. He's still really depressed that his friends are dead, and he's still trying to get back his memories and just like focus on what his mission is and try to remember more about himself, which we're learning along with him. I am really enjoying this book so far. I really like that like the first form of life that they find outside of Earth are like these single-celled microorganisms, and I am really curious to see how he's going to deal with it. He also finds like a map of the spaceship and then finds like this one place in the map that says like where these single cell organisms might be. So I think there are some currently on the ship, or like maybe they're using the organisms. So like my prediction so far is that these organisms are somehow going to come into play when maybe like he'll get stuck and he'll need to like use a bunch of them to like emit light to like maybe move the ship or something. I don't know. I feel like that's going to come into play somewhere. I will let you know if I'm right or wrong. But yeah, so far, very much enjoying this book. Like this chapter, learned a lot about these. I'm I need to look up the Petrova line to see if it's like an actual real thing. It seems pretty cool. All right, I will see you in the next chapter. Bye.
All right, this is going to be a really quick update. So basically, in this chapter, we find out he does a few things. Ryland. So what happens is he has some more flashbacks, and he has had like no progress on these astrophages. So I'm actually going to, yeah, no progress. Um and he decides, let me just take a nano syringe, which is like basically this like needle, like a really thin point, and just like poke one of the astrophages. It's like a zoomed in version of like what I imagine the astrophage to look like. I don't know. It's supposed to be a single celled organism. So he pokes it and it like dies immediately. And after that, he's like, okay, cool. So we can put like the astrophage through this one device that'll tell like what it's like made out of. So they put it through the device and they find out that the astrophage is made out of water primarily. But they're, of course, like very confused because, like, how can something that is made out of water survive on the sun or like that close to the sun? It should not be able to. So now that he's killed one astrophage and they realize that it's made of water, um, the one woman that like brought him to the FBI, Strat, who is like the main woman in charge of like this whole operation, she basically says like, "Cool, you have done your job. Thumbs up. Go back to your day job." And he like goes back to being a science teacher, and that's when he realizes like, I have to continue working on this project. I have to like work towards making the world a better place for like the future generation. So he goes back and like he talks to her, and he's like, "Can you give me more astrophage?" And she's like, "No." And he's like, "Please?" And she goes, "Fine. I will give you 3 astrophage." And he's like, "Cool." And that's what we get so far from the flashbacks. In the present, he realizes the two people that were on the spaceship with him were his friends. One was the captain, and the other I forget. But they were both friends of his, and they both died, and he's obviously still very upset about that. But he does manage to find clothes, so he finds like a spacesuit to be in. He also realizes that he the ship is using astrophage actually as fuel, because why wouldn't you? It's a really good fuel source since it's able to hold a lot of the energy of the sun and use it to like propel the ship. He also realizes that he has four of these like smaller kind of ships that were named after the Beatles. And these four smaller ships have like a set amount of like fuel in them, and he can send them out to give back information to Earth, which is this is Earth as usual. And yeah, so he has a very limited number of like ships to give information back to Earth with, and like to radio the information. And he also has like a set amount of fuel as well. So that's what we learn in this chapter. Now, for my like overall thoughts on the book so far, I think it's really good. I think that the author has done a good job of making sure that something occurs during every chapter that keeps us, the reader, engaged throughout the entire story. I haven't read his previous books. I have seen the movie The Martian, and from what I remember about the main character in The Martian compared to like this character, they both seem to be like kind of like have that whole like they both seem to kind of have similar personalities, or at least similar things that they find funny, or like similar sense of humor at least, which I think the author could work on characterization a little bit. But other than that, I'm willing to overlook characterization just for like the full adventure that we're getting in space. I just think it's so cool. And I'm really enjoying the pacing so far as well as the setting. I'm looking forward to the author telling us more about the spaceship and what exactly like is in each and every room as our main character explores it more. And yeah, I'm hoping that we get more clues as to how exactly Ryland is going to fix this entire issue and possibly get back home, because it seems like he's either going to like fix the issue and then be left out in space or get back home. I think this book is going to have a happy ending though. So, yeah, that is what I predict so far. A happy ending, hopefully. All right, I'll see you guys for the next chapter. Please let me know your thoughts down below as you're reading along, if you are, or if you're just like following the story by watching the video. So, yeah, okay, I'll see you then. Bye.
Hello again. So I will be talking now about Chapter 3 of Project Hail Mary, and we have a couple updates on what Ryland discovers about the astrophage. So Ryland is currently in his lab, and he is given 3 astrophages to work with, and he essentially just tries a bunch of experiments to try to find out why these 3 astrophage really want to be near Venus, and why they alternate between going from the sun to Venus, and what's so special about like this journey and this migration. So essentially what he does is he shines different types of light at the astrophage, because certain chemicals have different spectroscopy. I'm hopefully using that word correctly. But essentially he wants to find out what exactly makes it so special for the sun, for the astrophage to go from the sun to Venus. And he realizes that maybe the astrophage are attracted to the carbon dioxide in Venus, since it is the planet that is closest to the sun with carbon dioxide in it. So what he does is he essentially like puts them in like this dark room and shines a light on the 3 astrophage with the same signal of CO2. And immediately the astrophage go towards the light, and he kind of loses them and has to search for them a bit using these like infrared goggles, and he's able to find them. Except now there is a magical 4th astrophage there that wasn't there before. So he realizes now that he's found a way to make them multiply and reproduce. But when he shines the light on them again, only two of the astrophage want to go towards the light. The other two don't react to it at all. And he's like, why is this happening? And his conclusion is that the astrophage lose energy once they reproduce. So once they get like the CO2 they need to reproduce, they need to go back and make that journey to the sun to get more energy. And then once they have energy, go back to Venus to get CO2 to reproduce. So it's very cyclical in nature. And he also finds out that these astrophage, they contain mitochondria, which, as we all know, is the powerhouse of the cell. Yeah. So yeah, that's like the one thing I remember from biology class. He also, once he finds out how to reproduce them, he tells Strat. So just kind of like calls her and he tells her that, and then she immediately flies him to this Chinese aircraft carrier that they have like off the base of Hawaii. That's Hawaii. And once he's there, he's like surrounded by a bunch of like these really important like delegates and personnel that are involved in this mission that Strat is leading. And he presents to them his findings of the astrophage being able to reproduce. And they want him to replicate it and just discover the rate at which it's possible to reproduce astrophage. They also find out that astrophage are capable at moving at, I think, 0.92 times the speed of light. So they're extremely fast. And also, whenever they store energy, their mass increases because of Einstein's whole equation of E equals mc squared. So like their mass actually increases extremely high whenever they store energy, and that's just a correlation. That's why they're able to have a lot of energy inside them and use it to do this whole travel between the sun and Venus. So the people on that ship, they have a theory to use astrophage to power an aircraft or a spaceship to go into space to try to figure out this whole issue. Strat also finds out from different reports that astrophage haven't just been taking energy from our sun, but like other planets as well. So she has like data from all these amateur astronomers that have been collecting data on how bright other stars have been in like the sky, and she finds out that astrophage have been like infecting like other clusters of stars, and essentially the star's brightness will go down by like 10% before the astrophage leave it and migrate to other stars. So they find out this happened at each star nearby them except for one star, which name is Tau Cetri, I believe. I have to double check that. But now they have kind of a goal for where they want to go to investigate like what's happening with the astrophage there, why the star hasn't been infected so far, what sets that apart from like other stars that the astrophage have infected, and how can we save the sun. So yeah, my main take from this chapter was mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, and that they have a chance of saving Earth now. It might take a while though. So even though the astrophage aren't supposed to like put Earth into an ice age in like until like 40 years, I think it might take longer than that. We'll see. I do find it hard to believe that only one person was the one that was able to figure out all of this instead of like various people around the world. But the book does show that other space organizations are able to find other information. For example, I believe it was like the Indian space organization that was able to find this information about how fast the astrophage travel, and you'll get to see Ryland work with other people hopefully in the future. So I'm looking forward to that, and for new characters to be introduced other than just Ryland. Other than that, I really like the pacing of the novel. I think it's fast enough for my attention to be like just kept. I don't know if it's because I just have like a really small attention span due to like TikTok and other things, but I really like the pacing of the book. I think it's fast, which I appreciate. And I think something new happens in each chapter, which I also appreciate. The chapters tend to end in kind of like these mini cliffhangers, which I kind of like because then it encourages me to read the next chapter and just figure out what that was about. Which, if you like that, I think you'll like this book as well.
Hi again. So this is probably going to be the last chapter I review for this video, just because I have not had a lot of time to read this week, and this is as far as I've gotten, and this is as far as that's it. Like this is as much as you get. But I really hope that you guys enjoyed the video so far, and maybe I can do a part two for this and continue reading, just depending on if I feel like it and if people want that. But yeah, so basically what happened this chapter is Ryland is awake and he finds out that he has a set amount of days before the uh zero gravity in the ship, or the gravity in the ship like goes down, and he just starts kind of like floating around like so. And he has to find out basically what like the different parts of the ship are like for, and like what purpose the ship is for, and what he's going to do. So he waits out the days left until like gravity goes up, and he just basically has a couple more flashbacks. And in his flashbacks, he and Strat talk, and Strat tells him that she has a bunch of reports and advice from psychologists saying that it's not healthy for people to be stuck in a very small chamber together for long periods of time. And the chamber that him and his two companions would have stayed in would have been very small. And studies show that like people that are forced to be in these like small spaces together can actually be like aggressive towards each other by the end. And they need to make sure that the entire crew like gets together and are one big happy family. So Strat decides the best thing to do is to put them in comas. And basically medically induced comas, you're not guaranteed to make it out alive. So she finds a report that basically says that some people have genetic markers that make them more likely to wake up from the comas, and these markers ideally came or like are just kind of like residual DNA from back when humans just kind of came from organisms that used to hibernate, evolution. So she has to find people that one have the technical know-how to like survive up in space for however long they need to be in, as well as have these genetic markers that are most likely to make it out alive. So he assumes that he is one of those people since he is now in the spaceship. And unfortunately, his two crewmates did not make it out alive. However, he does find out that he was in a coma for 3 years on the journey to Tau Ceti, which is the star that I mentioned in the last chapter review. So that's where he figures the solar system he's in now is. So he's going up to the star, and once the spaceship makes it to the destination of the star, that's when gravity is going to go away and he's going to start floating. So he also realizes that 3 years for him is actually 13 years um just gone away on Earth because of relativity, which kind of is confusing for me, but that's just what he said. um and basically, this means that if he sends one of the four probes that he has, like those like four like mini spaceships, so that's a spaceship clearly, and it'll take 13 years to also get back to Earth, which means that 26 years would have passed on Earth in order for him to like save the planet, but he has no idea what he's doing yet. He takes something called a petrovoscope, which is this scope on like the outside of the spaceship that is meant to look at or find petrovolines. So he aims it at Tau Ceti study and finds that there is a petrovaline. However, there's also this like bright light that is shining back at him, and he's like, okay, what is it? And the light like goes away after a while, and he's like, that's strange. So he wonders if it's like some piece of dust on like the outside of like the glass of the petroscope or something. But then he takes a good look at it, and it's an entirely other spaceship, except the spaceship is kind of different from like human spaceships. It's like, this is what I had in mind. I don't know. It looks more actually alien, and he thinks that it's an actual alien spaceship. He thinks that humans like aren't the only one in the universe, and for whatever reason there's another alien, there's this alien spaceship here. And he's like, what do I do? And that's where the chapter ends. So here is my prediction for this chapter. I think that that spaceship isn't alien. I'm going to assume that it's actually human, because 13 years have passed on Earth. So I'm wondering if like spaceship technology has progressed, and like they've actually managed to send another spaceship out, not just his spaceship. And that's going to be like more humans being able to help him. That is my theory. I could completely be wrong. And it's actually aliens, which is something that is completely left field and that I truly did not expect. So, yeah, that is my review of the sixth chapter. So far, I am very thoroughly enjoying this book. I'm realizing that my reading speed is very low, but that's okay. I'm just glad to be back into reading and to just at least read a chapter a day, which I'm pretty happy about. So we'll see if I continue to review this book. I'm definitely going to finish reading it at the very least, and then maybe make a review in the next video or so, or I might just continue to read a chapter a day and continue this like read with me video. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on the book and if you enjoyed it or why you didn't enjoy it, and I hope you have a good day. Okay, bye.